The Galactic Council's miscalculation. The discovery. Scout Captain Veltaki pressed her scaled fingers against the navigation console, studying the readouts from her long-range sensors. The third planet from the yellow star showed clear signs of industrial civilization. Radio waves, primitive spacecraft, and the distinctive electromagnetic signature of nuclear weapons. Another species had reached the atomic age. Interesting, she murmured to her communications officer. Log this system as inhabited. Send the data to Fleet Command for evaluation. The Korathian Empire had been expanding across the galaxy for over 2,000 years. They had a system for dealing with new species. First came observation, then evaluation, and finally integration into their vast empire. Most species surrendered peacefully once they understood the futility of resistance. Those who didn't learned quickly. The War Room Assessment. 3 weeks later, General Zaxthor stood before the High Command strategy table, holographic displays showing detailed scans of the third planet. His silver armor gleamed under the chamber's artificial lights as he gestured toward the rotating image of Earth. The species calls themselves humans, he reported to the assembled commanders. Population approximately 8 billion. Technology level indicates they achieved spaceflight only recently. Their weapons are primitive chemical rockets and nuclear fission devices. Field Marshal Quindar, ancient even by Korathian standards, leaned forward to study the data. Their military organization. Fragmented, Zaxthor replied with confidence. They are divided into nearly 200 separate nations, constantly fighting among themselves. No unified command structure. No energy weapons. No defensive shields. According to our analysis, they should integrate into the Empire within one standard cycle. The other commanders nodded approvingly. This matched the pattern they had seen dozens of times before. Young civilizations were always the same, divided, primitive, and ultimately helpless against superior technology. The Standard Protocol. The Korathian diplomatic vessel emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system, broadcasting on all frequencies. The message was simple and had been delivered to hundreds of worlds before. Greetings, inhabitants of the third planet. You have been selected for integration into the Korathian Galactic Empire. Your species will be granted protected status under imperial law. Surrender your military forces and prepare to receive our administrative personnel. Compliance will ensure peaceful transition. Resistance will result in occupation. You have 10 of your local days to respond. On Earth, the message sent shockwaves through every government and military command center. For the first time in human history, all nations faced a common threat. Emergency sessions convened at the United Nations. Military leaders who had been enemies for decades suddenly found themselves working together. The human response. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center beneath Colorado's Rocky Mountains, surrounded by representatives from every major military power on Earth. The Chinese-American officer had risen through the ranks not through politics, but through an uncanny ability to think outside conventional military doctrine. 10 days, she said, studying the alien transmission for the 100th time. They're giving us 10 days to surrender our entire planet. What choice do we have? Asked General Morrison of the American Joint Chiefs. Our most advanced fighters are no match for interstellar technology. Chen smiled grimly. That depends on what they're expecting us to do. She turned to address the assembled leaders. Every first contact scenario we've ever imagined assumed we'd be the ones making demands of a primitive species. But we've also spent the last 70 years preparing for the possibility that someone might come knocking on our door. Dr. Elena Vasquez stepped forward from the group of scientists. The physicist's hair had gone completely gray during the last 3 weeks of frantic work. The prototype is ready, Admiral. We've managed to integrate the theoretical framework into a working system. How long will it take to retrofit the New Horizon? Chen asked. 18 hours, assuming we can get the engineering teams to work without sleep. Chen nodded. Do it. Send our response to the aliens. Tell them we need to discuss terms. The alien confusion. General Zaxthor read the human response with growing puzzlement. Instead of the expected surrender or defiant rejection, the message was carefully worded and diplomatic. The humans wanted to discuss terms of integration and requested a meeting between representatives. "This is unusual," admitted his intelligence officer, Commander Yelnov. "Most species either surrender immediately or prepare for hopeless resistance. These humans seem to be trying to negotiate. Perhaps they are more intelligent than we assumed," Zaxthor mused. "Very well. We will meet with their representatives. It will make the integration smoother if they believe they have some input in the process." The Corethian fleet moved into position around Earth, 47 vessels of various classes, each one capable of destroying continents. Their energy shields could deflect any known weapon, and their plasma cannons could melt through any armor. By every calculation, the humans were completely outmatched. The meeting. The diplomatic vessel descended through Earth's atmosphere under the watchful eyes of human satellites and the alien fleet above. The meeting was held on a neutral platform in international waters, with representatives from both sides maintaining careful distances. Admiral Chen studied the aliens across the conference table. The Corethians were impressive, tall, scaled beings with 4 arms and keen intelligence in their large eyes. But she noticed something important in how they carried themselves. Despite their obvious technological superiority, they moved and spoke like bureaucrats, not soldiers. "Your terms are simple," General Zaxthor explained through the translation device. "Surrender your military forces, and your species will be granted protected status within the Empire. You will retain limited self-governance under Imperial oversight." "And if we refuse?" Chen asked calmly. "Then we will be forced to demonstrate the futility of resistance," Zaxthor replied. "Your weapons cannot penetrate our defenses. Your spacecraft cannot match our speed. Surrender is your only rational choice." Chen nodded thoughtfully. "I need to consult with our leadership. Can you give us 24 hours? Zaxthor agreed, confident that the additional time would only reinforce the humans' understanding of their hopeless position. The preparation. As the alien diplomats returned to their ships, teams of human engineers worked frantically in hidden facilities around the globe. The New Horizon, humanity's most advanced research vessel, underwent modifications that would have seemed impossible just months before. Dr. Vasquez supervised the installation of the prototype drive system personally. "The theoretical calculations are sound," she told Admiral Chen over the communication link. "But this will be its first real-world test." "Will it work?" Chen asked directly. "It should," Vasquez replied. "The physics are solid, but we're venturing into territory no human has ever explored before." Chen nodded. "Sometimes that's exactly where you need to go." The moment of truth. 24 hours later, Admiral Chen transmitted humanity's final response to the Corethian fleet. Her message was brief and spoken with quiet determination. "General Zaxthor, we have considered your offer carefully. Our answer is no. We will not surrender our world or our freedom to anyone. If you want Earth, you'll have to take it." On the bridge of his command ship, Zaxthor shook his head in disappointment. Another species choosing the hard path. "Very well," he transmitted back. "We will demonstrate why resistance is futile. Prepare your population for occupation." The Corethian fleet began moving into attack formation, their energy shields glowing with power as weapon systems came online. Sensors showed no significant human military response, a few outdated orbital platforms, and some primitive spacecraft that posed no threat to Imperial technology. The emergence, what happened next, would be discussed in military academies across the galaxy for generations to come. Space itself seemed to ripple near Earth's moon, and then something emerged that defied every law of physics the Corethians understood. The New Horizon appeared without any of the energy signatures associated with known propulsion systems. No hyperspace distortion, no gravitational waves, no exotic particle emissions. It simply wasn't there one moment and was there the next. "What in the void is that?" demanded Zaxthor. staring at the human vessel on his main screen. "Unknown, General," replied his sensor officer. "The ship appears to be of human construction, but it's showing energy readings that shouldn't be possible with their technology level." The New Horizon was sleek and predatory-looking, unlike the bulky utilitarian designs typical of early spacefaring species. More importantly, it was moving in ways that violated everything the Corinthians knew about space combat. First Blood. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force vessel New Horizon," came the transmission from the human ship. "You have threatened our world and our people. Leave now or face the consequences." General Zaxthor almost laughed. A single primitive vessel challenging an entire Imperial fleet. "Human Admiral, you are vastly outnumbered. Surrender your ship and prepare to be boarded." "I don't think so," Chen replied calmly. "Let me show you something." The New Horizon moved with impossible grace, sliding between Corathian vessels like a shark through a school of fish. The aliens fired their plasma cannons, confident that no primitive ship could withstand Imperial firepower. The energy beams lanced through space, striking the human vessel directly, and did absolutely nothing. The plasma simply bent around the New Horizon, as if the ship existed in a different layer of reality. More disturbing still, the human vessel seemed to be accelerating as it absorbed the energy from their attacks. "Impossible," breathed Zaxthor. "No shield technology can deflect that much plasma energy without any dispersal or feedback." "General," his science officer reported with growing alarm, "I don't think they're using shields at all. The energy readings suggest something else entirely." The demonstration. Admiral Chen's voice came through their communications again, still calm but now carrying an edge of something the Corinthians had never heard before in a supposedly primitive species: absolute confidence. "Your weapons are impressive, General Zaxthor. But you've made a fundamental error in your calculations. You assumed we were still using the same technology you observed when you first found us. You assumed we hadn't been preparing for this day since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what else might be out there." The New Horizon came to a complete stop in the center of the Corathian formation. Weapon ports opened along its hull, but they weren't firing conventional projectiles or energy beams. Instead, reality itself seemed to bend around the human ship. "What are they doing?" Zaxthor demanded. His answer came as 3 Corathian cruisers simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized. They were there one moment and gone the next, leaving behind only empty space and confused sensor readings. The revelation. "You see," Admiral Chen continued conversationally, "while you were perfecting weapons that shoot energy through normal space, we were wondering what would happen if we could access the spaces between spaces. Turns out, when you can manipulate dimensional boundaries, concepts like shields and armor become rather quaint." The remaining Corinthian fleet began to back away from the human vessel, but the New Horizon moved with them, always maintaining the same relative position. It was as if distance itself had become meaningless. "This is impossible," Zaxthor repeated, his voice shaking. "No species develops this level of technology without first mastering energy weapons and defensive systems. It's not how technological advancement works." "Maybe not for you," Chen replied. "But humans have always had a talent for doing things the wrong way and making it work anyway." The choice. The New Horizon stopped moving, floating silently among the increasingly panicked Corinthian vessels. When Admiral Chen spoke again, her tone had shifted from confident to something far more dangerous. "General Zaxthor, you came to our world expecting us to surrender because we couldn't match your weapons. But you made a critical mistake. You assumed that just because we're young, we're weak. You assumed that just because we haven't conquered other worlds, we don't know how to fight. You assumed that just because we're different from you, we think like you." She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. "Humans don't surrender, General. We adapt. We overcome. And when someone threatens our home, we become something you've apparently never encountered in all your centuries of conquest. We become dangerous. The tactical display on Zaxthor's bridge showed the impossible truth. One human vessel had effortlessly neutralized 3 of his cruisers and was now holding his entire fleet hostage with technology that defied understanding. "What do you want?" he finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Admiral Chen's response would echo through Korathian nightmares for years to come. "I want you to go back to your empire and deliver a message. Tell them that Earth is not available for conquest. Tell them that humanity is not interested in being integrated into anyone's empire. And tell them that if they send another fleet to threaten our world, we won't be as merciful as we're being today." As if to emphasize her point, space around the New Horizon began to ripple again, reality bending in ways that hurt to look at directly. The withdrawal. General Zaxthor found himself facing a choice no Korathian commander had ever confronted in 2 millennia of expansion. Retreat from a species they had assumed was primitive, or risk the destruction of his entire fleet by an enemy he didn't understand. The decision wasn't difficult. "All ships," he commanded, his voice heavy with defeat, "prepare for immediate withdrawal to hyperspace." As the Korathian fleet began to power their hyperdrive systems, Admiral Chen's final transmission followed them. "Safe travels, General. And remember, we know where you live now, too." The last thing the Korathians saw before jumping to hyperspace was the New Horizon beginning to fade from normal space, disappearing into whatever impossible dimension had brought it to the battle. Behind them, Earth continued its ancient rotation, its human inhabitants having just announced to the galaxy that they were far more than anyone had imagined. When predators meet prey. The Empire's response. High Admiral Koraxton stood before the Imperial Council chamber, his 4 arms crossed in the traditional gesture of disgrace. The greatest military leader in Korathian history had just been summoned to explain how a single primitive vessel had humiliated an entire Imperial fleet. "Explain to us," demanded Supreme Chancellor Vexmeri, her ancient voice carrying the weight of 2,000 years of unopposed conquest, how General Zaxthor's fleet was forced to retreat from a species that achieved spaceflight less than a century ago. Koraxton activated the holographic display, showing the encounter near Earth's moon. "The humans possess technology that operates outside our understanding of physics, Chancellor. Our energy weapons were completely ineffective, and they demonstrated the ability to remove our vessels from existence without conventional destruction." Murmurs of disbelief rippled through the council chamber. Senior Fleet Admiral Ken Velk spoke for many when he said, "This is impossible. No species develops dimensional manipulation technology before mastering energy shields and plasma weapons. It violates every principle of technological progression." "Nevertheless," Koraxton replied grimly, "we lost 3 cruisers to weapons we couldn't identify, detect, or defend against. The humans didn't just defeat our forces, they made us irrelevant." Supreme Chancellor Vexmeri's scales darkened with anger. "No primitive species humiliates the Empire and remains unconquered. Prepare the subjugation fleet. If these humans want to play with forces beyond their understanding, we will show them the true meaning of superior technology." The human preparation. 3 months after the first contact incident, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the expanded command center that now sprawled beneath the Colorado mountains. The facility had grown from a simple military bunker into the nerve center of humanity's first interstellar defense network. Dr. Elena Vasquez approached, carrying a data pad with the latest test results. "The dimensional fold drives are performing beyond expectations. Admiral, we now have 12 vessels equipped with the technology, and production is accelerating." "What about the detection grid?" Chen asked, studying the holographic display showing Earth's solar system. "Operational across 4 star systems," replied Captain James Rodriguez, the system's chief engineer. "If anyone enters normal space within 50 light-years of Earth, we'll know about it immediately." Chen nodded, but her expression remained troubled. "We hurt their pride when we sent them away. They'll be back, and they won't be as overconfident next time." Commander Lisa Park, recently promoted to head of synopsychology, joined the conversation. Our analysis of their behavior patterns suggests they've never encountered effective resistance before. The Corethians have been expanding through intimidation and technological superiority for centuries. Being turned away by a primitive species will force them to escalate. Good, Chen said quietly, because this time, we'll be ready for them. The Corethian return. 6 months after their humiliating retreat, the Corethian subjugation fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. This was no diplomatic mission or show of force. It was the largest military armada in Imperial history. 300 warships of various classes hung in space like a metallic storm cloud. Dreadnoughts capable of cracking planets, battle cruisers armed with weapons that could vaporize cities, and support vessels carrying enough firepower to sterilize continents. At the fleet's heart sat the Imperial flagship Dominator, a vessel so massive it could be seen from Earth's surface as a new star. High Admiral Coraxton stood on the Dominator's command bridge, studying tactical displays that showed every approach to the human homeworld. This time there will be no negotiations, he announced to his fleet commanders. We advance on all vectors simultaneously. Whatever technology the humans used, it cannot defend against 300 ships attacking from every direction. The warning. The human detection grid registered the massive Corethian fleet the moment it dropped out of hyperspace. Within minutes, alerts were flashing across every command center on Earth and throughout the growing human defense network. Admiral Chen stood before the main tactical display, watching as sensor data revealed the true scope of the threat facing humanity. The numbers were staggering. 300 alien warships against humanity's dozen experimental vessels. My God, breathed Captain Rodriguez. They brought everything they had. Not everything, Chen corrected, studying the fleet composition data, but enough to glass the planet 10 times over if we fight them conventionally. She activated the fleet-wide communication system, addressing the commanders of humanity's small but revolutionary fleet. All vessels, this is Admiral Chen. The enemy has arrived in force. They expect us to meet them ship to ship in traditional combat. We're going to give them something they've never seen before, human warfare. The hunt begins. The Corethian fleet advanced toward Earth in perfect formation, their ships arranged in precise geometric patterns calculated by military computers. Every approach vector was covered, every possible escape route blocked. It was a textbook example of overwhelming force applied with mathematical precision. High Admiral Coraxton watched the tactical display with satisfaction. No sign of the human dimensional ship, reported his sensor officer. Long-range scans detect only primitive orbital installations and chemical rocket spacecraft. They are hiding, Coraxton declared. No matter. We will flush them out and demonstrate the price of defying the Empire. But the humans weren't hiding. They were hunting. The new horizon materialized directly behind the Corethian rear guard, not emerging from hyperspace or dimensional fold space, but simply becoming visible as if it had been there all along. Before the alien sensors could register its presence, reality bent around 3 more Corethian vessels, and they vanished into whatever void had claimed their predecessors. Contact. Human vessel attacking our rear formations. The panic in the communications officer's voice was evident even through the translation matrix. Coraxton spun toward the tactical display, but the human ship was already gone. Where did it go? Unknown, Admiral. It simply disappeared. Psychological warfare. What followed was unlike any space battle in galactic history. The humans didn't engage in the traditional exchange of long-range fire between massed fleets. Instead, they appeared and vanished like ghosts, striking without warning and disappearing before the Corethians could respond. The Earthship's silent thunder emerged from what appeared to be solid space debris, eliminated 2 escort frigates, and faded back into dimensional fold space before the aliens could target it. The vessel Phantom Strike attacked from 6 different directions simultaneously, using dimensional manipulation to exist in multiple positions at once. The ship Quantum Blade simply passed through Corethian shields and armor as if they didn't exist, delivering devastating attacks from inside enemy vessels. High Admiral Coraxton watched his perfectly ordered fleet formation dissolve into chaos as his commanders tried to respond to enemies that defied every principle of space combat. "They're not fighting like a military force," he realized aloud. "They're hunting us like prey." The adaptation. Commander Veltaki, serving aboard one of the surviving battle cruisers, studied the tactical data with growing unease. Unlike her superiors, she had made an extensive study of human history and culture during the months between encounters. "Admiral," she transmitted to the flagship, "I believe I understand what we're facing. The humans aren't using conventional military tactics because they never developed conventional military doctrine like other species. Their entire approach to warfare is based on adaptation and improvisation." "Explain," Coraxton demanded, watching another cruiser vanish from his tactical display. "Other species, including ourselves, developed space combat doctrine based on extending ground warfare principles into 3 dimensions. We fight with formations, fixed positions, and mathematical calculations. But humans evolved as pursuit predators. They hunt in packs, using stealth and coordination to bring down prey much larger than themselves." As if to illustrate her point, 4 human vessels materialized around a Corethian dreadnought simultaneously. The massive alien warship, designed to destroy planets, found itself unable to target enemies that refused to stay in one-dimensional layer long enough to be hit. The trap. Admiral Chen stood in the command center of the New Horizon, coordinating the complex dance of dimensional warfare that was systematically dismantling the Corethian fleet. "Status report, all vessels." "Quantum Blade here," came Captain Martinez's voice. "We've eliminated their left flank command ship. Enemy formation is breaking apart." "Silent Thunder reporting," added Captain Thompson. "Their admiral is trying to regroup around the flagship, but they're moving too slowly to adapt to our tactics." Chen smiled grimly. "Phase 2, all ships. Let's show them what happens when humans stop playing games." The revelation. High Admiral Coraxton's confidence had evaporated entirely as he watched his fleet of 300 vessels reduced to barely half that number in less than 2 hours. The humans weren't just winning. They were toying with his forces, appearing and vanishing at will while his weapons remained completely ineffective. "This is impossible," he repeated for the 100th time. "How can a species develop such advanced technology without first mastering the fundamental sciences we've spent millennia perfecting?" Commander Velteki's response came from her damaged cruiser. "Because they didn't follow our path, Admiral. While we perfected energy weapons and defensive shields, they were asking different questions. What if space and time aren't fixed? What if dimensions can be manipulated? What if the rules we consider absolute are just limitations we've accepted?" The main screen flickered as Admiral Chen's image appeared, transmitted directly to the Corethian flagship despite their secure communications. "High Admiral Corax-10," she said calmly, "I believe we need to have a conversation." The negotiation. This time, there were no diplomatic meetings or neutral territories. Admiral Chen simply materialized on the bridge of the Dominator, walking out of a dimensional fold as casually as stepping through a doorway. The Corethian guards raised their weapons, but Coraxton gestured for them to stand down. "How?" he asked simply. Chen looked around the alien bridge with professional interest. "Your species has spent 2,000 years conquering through superior technology and overwhelming force. You've never needed to innovate because you've never met anyone who could match your capabilities. But humans have been fighting each other for our entire history. We've had to constantly adapt, evolve, and find new ways to overcome seemingly impossible odds." She gestured, and a holographic display showed the remaining Corethian fleet, now completely surrounded by human vessels that flickered in and out of normal space. "You came here expecting to face a primitive species armed with chemical rockets. Instead, you found a species that has spent the last decade preparing for this exact scenario. We've been studying your technology, your tactics, and your psychology since the moment we detected your first scout ship." Coraxton's scales had gone pale. What do you want? The ultimatum. Admiral Chen's expression hardened. The same thing I wanted 6 months ago. For you to leave our world alone and never come back. But this time, the stakes are higher. You've brought an invasion fleet to humanity's doorstep and threatened the existence of our entire species. She activated her communication device, and her voice was broadcast to every ship in both fleets. To the warriors of the Korathian Empire, you came here believing you were hunters, but you've discovered your prey. Your admiral brought 300 ships to conquer one world, and we've reduced your fleet by half using only 12 vessels. This isn't because we have better weapons. It's because we think differently than you do. The tactical display updated, showing human reinforcements arriving throughout the solar system. Not dozens of ships, but hundreds, each one equipped with dimensional full technology. You see, while you were preparing your invasion fleet, we were building our own. The difference is, our fleet can be anywhere in the galaxy within hours, while yours takes months to cross the same distance. The choice. High Admiral Koraxton stared at the tactical display, showing human vessels materializing throughout his formation. Each one carried technology that made his most advanced warships obsolete. For the first time in Korathian military history, retreat wasn't just advisable. It was the only option for survival. If we withdraw, he asked quietly, will your ships follow us? Chen considered the question carefully. That depends entirely on your empire's future behavior. If you leave human space and never return, we have no quarrel with the Korathian people. But if you threaten Earth or any human colony again, you'll discover that our fleet can reach your homeworld just as easily as it reached you here. The implications were staggering. A species that had achieved interstellar travel less than a century ago was threatening the capital of an empire that had dominated the galaxy for 2 millennia. The withdrawal. All ships, Koraxton commanded with a heavy heart, prepare for immediate withdrawal to hyperspace. We are returning to Imperial space. As the surviving Korathian vessels began charging their hyperdrive systems, Admiral Chen transmitted one final message to the retreating fleet. High Admiral, when you report to your superiors, make sure they understand something important. Humanity doesn't want to conquer your empire or rule the galaxy. We just want to be left alone to explore the universe in our own way. But if anyone threatens our home, our families, or our freedom, they'll discover that humans can be the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. The message. The battered Korathian fleet limped back to Imperial space, carrying news that would reshape galactic politics forever. A species that had been dismissed as primitive had not only defeated the Empire's greatest military force, but had done so using technology that defied everything the galaxy's most advanced civilizations believed possible. Commander Veltaki submitted her report to Imperial intelligence, but her conclusions were almost too radical for the Empire to accept. The humans represent a completely new paradigm in technological development, she wrote. They have bypassed thousands of years of conventional advancement by asking questions no one else thought to ask. More importantly, they've done so while maintaining the adaptability and ruthlessness that made them effective predators on their homeworld. The New Order. Within a year, the human incident had become the most studied military engagement in galactic history. The Korathian Empire, faced with technology they couldn't understand or counter, issued an official decree declaring human space off-limits to all Imperial vessels. Other galactic powers took note. The Zilirian Confederation, the Altarian Republic, and even the mysterious Vorthan Collective all quietly updated their expansion plans to avoid any systems claimed by humanity. The legacy. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of Earth's first interstellar space station, watching human vessels emerge from dimensional fold space as they returned from exploration missions throughout the galaxy. In just 2 years, humanity had gone from being unknown to becoming one of the most respected and feared species in known space. Dr. Elena Vasquez joined her at the viewport, carrying the datapad with the latest reports from human colonies spreading across dozens of star systems. The dimensional fold drive has changed everything, she observed. We can establish colonies faster than anyone can track, and defend them with technology no one else can match. Chen nodded, but her expression remained thoughtful. The question is, what do we do with this advantage? We could become conquerors like the Corethians, or we could become something the galaxy has never seen before. What's that? Vasquez asked. Explorers, Chen replied simply. The universe is vast and full of wonders we can barely imagine. Why waste time conquering when we could be discovering the future? As Earth's sun set behind them, human vessels continued arriving from across the galaxy, bringing back reports of new worlds, new species, and new mysteries waiting to be solved. The galaxy had learned that humanity was not a species to be conquered, but rather a force of nature to be respected. The Corethian Empire, once the undisputed masters of known space, had learned the hard way that technological superiority meant nothing when facing an enemy that refused to follow the established rules. They had expected to find prey, and instead discovered predators unlike anything they had ever encountered. In the end, the greatest victory wasn't the defeat of the Corethian fleet, but the message it sent to every civilization in the galaxy. Humanity had arrived, and the universe would never be the same again. The stars belonged to those bold enough to claim them, and humans had proven they were the boldest species of all. The age of human exploration had begun, and the galaxy trembled with the possibilities of what this dangerous, creative, and utterly unpredictable species might discover next.